right, so let's look at number 5. We're going to start by distributing through that 2, through that parentheses. So I'm going to get 2x minus 6 equals negative 5 over x. Now I think at this point probably the easiest thing to do is to put this over 1, and then let's cross multiply this way, which is going to give me 2x squared minus 6x equals, and then if we go the other way, we're going to get negative 5. Okay, so I see that this is a quadratic, so I'm going to want to set this equal to 0. So I'm going to leave these guys, and I'm going to move that negative 5 over to join them, so that's going to become plus 5 equals 0. So then we can see that our A is 2, our B is negative 6, and our C is positive 5. All right, so we're going to do quadratic formula. X equals negative b, which will be positive 6, plus or minus b squared. Now b is negative 6. When you square that, that's a positive 36. Be careful. Not a negative 36, a positive 36. Minus 4 times 2 times 5. And that whole right side is going to be over 2 times a, which is 2 times 2. So that's 4. X equals 6 plus or minus. Then throw what's underneath in your calculator. Do 36 minus 4 times 2 times 5. And you're going to get negative 4. And that whole thing is over 4. Okay, now remember, this, I can take the I out, and that's really radical 4, which is really just 2, right? So then what I have here is x equals 6 plus or minus 2i over 4. All right, so then we're going to write this in a plus bi form. So we're going to simplify this first. And that's going to give us x equals 3/2. Then we write the plus or minus. And then we're just going to look on the other side. And on the other side, we are going to simplify 2i over 4. And that's going to give me I over 2, because that 2 over 4 becomes 1/2. All right, for number 6, I'm going to do the same. So I'm going to put these over 1. And I'm going to find, actually, I'm not going to do the same thing as number 5. I think I'm going to find a common denominator. How about that? Okay, so if I need to find a common denominator, I'm going to multiply this denominator by x, which means I also need to multiply the numerator by x. The same thing with this second fraction. I'm going to multiply both denominator and numerator by x. So now you can see that I have an x here, an x here, and an x here. Okay, and because it's an equation, once I have that, let's just cross those denominators out. All right, so in the numerator, and let's just look over here, I've got 16x times that x, which is going to give me 16x squared. And I have the equal sign, and then that x right here times that 16 is just going to give me a 16x and a minus 13. All right, I am going to take all of these guys and bring them over to that side, okay, which means I'm going to change all their signs. So 16x squared, then that's going to become a minus 16x, and a plus 13 equals 0. All right, let's do the quadratic formula. So first of all, a is 16, b is negative 16, and c is positive 13. Okay, so x equals negative b, so we're going to turn that into a positive, plus or minus b squared. Negative 16, if you square it, is 256. Remember, a negative, whenever you square it, is positive. Then we've got minus 4 times A, which is 16, times C, which is 13. And then the whole thing is over 2 times A, which is 32, because 2 times 16 is 32. All right, so then we're just going to plug that those numbers that are underneath the radical into your calculator, and you're going to get negative 576. All right, now we know that the negative is going to come out, right? And that's going to just become an I. Now, if you look at this, though, right, 576, and actually I really shouldn't write an equal sign. I'm just showing you what that radical is equivalent to. Now, 576 is a perfect square. So if you take the square root of 576 in your calculator, you're going to get 24. So this is going to be 16 plus or minus 24, but don't forget we have an I because it was negative, all over 32. All right, so let's put this in a plus bi form. So first I'm going to simplify that, which is 1/2, plus or minus. Then I'm going to simplify this. And you can put that in your calculator if you just do 24 over 32. Do alpha y equals to get your fraction, and do 24 in the numerator, 32 in the denominator, and you'll get 3/4. So then this would be 3i over 4. All right, so number 9, you're going to divide both sides. Oops, forgot my pen there. Okay, you're going to divide both sides of the equal sign by 3. And if we do that, so we get 6x squared minus 8x plus 29 and equals 0, because 0 divided by 3 is 0. All right, so let's do the quadratic formula. So we have x equals negative b, which is going to be a positive 8, plus or minus b squared, so that's negative 8 squared, which is positive 64, minus 4 times 6 times 29. And that's all going to be over 2 times a. So that's 8 plus or minus the square root of negative 632 all over 12. Now this, we're going to put the I on the outside and use your calculator and do go into your y equals and do 632 divided by x if you have a hard time figuring out what two numbers multiply to 632. All right, the other way you could do is you could kind of cheat and look at the multiple choice. All of them have the square root of 158. So chances are 158 is going to be one of the factors, and it actually is. It's 4 and 158, okay? And the square root of 4 is going to become a 2. So then we're going to get x equals 8 plus or minus 2i radical 158, and that's all over 12. And we're going to put that in a plus bi form. So I'm going to simplify that, okay? And when I simplify that, that's going to be 2/3. We've got the plus or minus. And then let me simplify this way. And that's going to be I radical 158, and that quantity divided by 6, which is choice 4. Okay, last one, number 11. Let's just throw it right in there because it's set equal to 0 and everything's all on one side, so we can go straight into doing the quadratic formula. So we have negative b plus or minus square root b squared, which is 9, minus 4 times 2 times 2. And that whole thing is over 2 times a, which is going to be 4. All right, when we plug this into your calculator, you should get the square root of negative 7. Now, 7, there's no perfect squares in there, so we're just going to take the I out of that, and that's going to be I radical 7, and that quantity over 4. So I'm going to simplify it this way, which, well, there really isn't anything to do there, so I'm just going to leave that negative 3 over 4, plus or minus, and we're going to have the same issue here. There's no simplifying there either, so that's going to be I radical 7, and that quantity over 4. Okay, and if you look at that, that is choice 1. I know it looks a little bit different, but this 1/4 is coming from the 1 that's here and the 4 that's here. All right, so that's it. For all of the kids that are in the accelerated group, you should be doing, in addition, you should be doing numbers 7 through 11. So some of these questions here that I just went over on the video, you can take notes, and everybody really should be taking notes in their packet. But in addition, you should also be doing number 8 and number 10. Please check on Google Classroom with the answers that are posted on Google Classroom, and please make sure that you put everything in your notes packet, okay?